Peterborough, this is Salam Radio.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and welcome to the Wealth Made Simple show. I'm your host, Kieron Bateman. There's no Shaz this week. He is feeling a little under the weather. So, Shaz, when you listen to this, hope you get better soon, bud. So, yeah, all by myself this week. So, I'll be going through some things. But if you want to alleviate me from talking to myself and conversations with myself, you can get in touch with the studio. You can call us on 01733 602 133. You can text me on 07411 191 062, or you can comment on any of the live streams on Facebook, YouTube, X, or Twitch. Well, with all that out of the way, one other thing. All the information that I give out is just purely information based on my experience, based on what I understand, how I know things, what I've done, where I've been. It's not investment advice or financial advice in any way, shape or form. If you want that sort of advice, you generally have to pay for it and seek someone who deals with that for a living. And they will help you far more than I can. So with that out of the way, this week on Wealth Made Simple, we spend a lot of time on this show, Shaz and I, talking about making sure you do your due diligence, following the process, do this, do that. And it occurred to us that we've never actually taken a deep dive on what doing your due diligence actually means, or what it is required to do your due diligence. So that's what I'm going to do this week. I'm going to take a closer look at what it is to do your due diligence, to understand what it is you're looking at, to help you make informed decisions. So to begin with, I need to stop saying so as well. I use that a lot. I realize that listening back to myself on this show. I say so a lot. Anyway, moving on. So there it is again. Now you're going to hear it a lot. But when you're doing your due diligence, and what we mean by due diligence is that crucial step for any business or investment or any venture itself that you don't have complete and full clarity on absolutely every working aspect of it. And so it gives you a depth of research and some key points to do to understand where the strengths of the investment are, the strength of the business, the weaknesses within that business or that investment, the costs, the pitfalls. It'll encourage you to seek out and look at things that you didn't know existed before, to give you a more rounded view of what it is, more information, basically, on what it is you're looking at and investing in. So to begin with, do a market analysis. Now, as we've said with due diligence, do your due diligence, make sure you know what you're getting into, do your market analysis. This isn't going to be one of those times where I say do your market analysis and then don't tell you how to do a market analysis. But the market analysis is the strategy that you use to assess certain factors that are going to have an impact on your investment or your business. It will form the understanding for your target audience, the industry trends, whether the market's going up, whether the market's going down, and you'll be able to make yourself a detailed guide on how to conduct market analysis with your competitors or with your businesses, within your industry, or within a new industry that you're looking at stepping into. So to begin with, define your objectives. What is it you want to get out of this analysis? Outline the goals of your market analysis. What are you looking to get to? What are you looking to enter with a new market and identify your competitors? Assess the demand for the service or the product, or so the intricacies of how much volume is being required for property, as an example. Are there an abundance of tenants in the area? Are they the sort of tenants you want to? More on that later. More on your perfect customer later. But it's a deep dive into all the superficial things surrounding what it is you're looking at doing and what your goal is at the end of all of that. You want to have let's stick with property because that's what I know. You want a thriving property business that has good cash flow and some long-term capital appreciation. Okay, those are my goals. Who else is doing that in this forum, in this area? There are a number of property companies that are working. Okay, are they on an uptrend? Are they on a downtrend? How are their metrics looking? Can I get access to their metrics? Probably not. But I know that they are potential competitors, or are they potential allies? Are there people out there that I can speak to that have that information within those businesses that will, help me on my journey and that I can speak to? So that's the first thing for your market analysis is define your objectives. After you've defined your objectives, work out what your target market is. And by that I mean, if you're purchasing houses to rent out near a university, are you planning for your target market to be students or businessmen, business people? Because if it's students, you're probably going to do well. If you want high-paying clients that are in white-collar jobs, right next to a university, possible, but less likely because of the aforementioned university. Students are going to want accommodation close to the university. So understanding that ideal of what type of investment you're going to make, what type of business you want to make, what type of customer you want, whether you want to sell, for example, something that's relatively inexpensive, but you want to sell a lot of them, or do you want to sell something that's very expensive, but only sell one or two of them? All of that comes down to your market analysis, your research on what your target market wants. And then look at the industry trends. What's happening within the industry? And you can take a wider view of this and see what's going on in the industry. Is the industry a growing industry? There's a lot of guidance out there that will tell you from a business perspective whether or not you're dealing with a growing industry or whether you're in a growing industry. Or is it in a declining industry? Is the area you're in a declining area, or is it an increasing area? And once you've done that research, you've got a better understanding of where you're at within the industry. After that, personally, I would conduct a SWOT and PESTEL analysis. You can go online and download them. There's loads that are available. Fundamentally, a SWOT analysis is you draw a square, 4 squares. Cunningly, they are SWOT. I know nobody saw that coming. And they are boxes for you to put in what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what the opportunities are, and what the threats are, market threats. So this is you can do this on a personal level. You can also do this on a business level. What are your strengths? What are the strengths of the business? What are your weaknesses? What are the weaknesses within the business? What are the opportunities that you have for yourself? What are the opportunities for the business? So on and so forth. And this will give you a clear roadmap on where you need to improve, what you can capitalize on, how you are going to potentially mitigate risks that are coming up, because all of this factors into all of that. And your PESTEL analysis goes a little deeper. So they all go hand in hand with that. So after you've done your market analysis, you know what market you want to be in, you know what business, you know what your competitors are doing, you know you've got a good overview of where you're at. So you now look at the conditions of, and again, I'm using property as the example here, of the property. So does your property have, good structural integrity? Is it working well mechanically? Does it have a roof? Little things, simple things that you might need in a property. Interior condition. What are the environmental factors for, proximity to industrial sites? Whether it's a flood zone, whether it's got issues around it that potentially aren't listed within the property business, the area that you're trying to get into. All of these come under identifying the business and knowing the overall business condition and the conditions within the business. So it's kind of like a subset of the analysis for your due diligence. So you've got your overall market blend going on, which gives you good overall insight. You then focus down into your specific business insights in terms of strong business, weak business, what risks are involved, what deeper assets do you need. Then you come to the legal considerations that you need to understand for your business, for your investment. And again, I'm going to use property because this is what I know. So what are the legal considerations for investing in property? Who has the ownership of the property you want to invest in? Are they allowed to sell it to you? What is it a commercial property? Is it a free residential property? Understanding what laws and regulations come with each type of property, whether you can change the property around using permitted development, whether you need to apply for planning permission, whether you need to understand the building regulations. All of these things are legal bits and pieces that you need to understand at least a little, or at least know of well enough to ask the questions. Because a lot of this isn't necessarily about having the information right there on hand, quick, sharp. It's about knowing which questions to ask. I can do a lot of this research for just about any business because I know what questions to ask, because I've done this research before. If you've never done any sort of due diligence research type thing before, then someone says to you, do some due diligence, and you go, okay, what's that mean? I'm gonna look at some bits and hope for them. So going that level deeper, excuse me, I've got something in my throat and I'm just trying not to cough. Going that level deeper will allow you to utilize more information and make a more informed decision. Going back to the legal side of things that you need to be aware of, things like contractual agreements. Is there anything contractually already in place that will still be in place when you purchase the property or the business or the investment that is beholden to somebody else? So you need to be aware of all those kind of moving parts. And then finally, in this next bit kind of blurs the lines between legal obligation and financial obligation. The tax obligations. Do you know what the company tax laws are for the industry that you're in, for the amount of cash flow that you plan to make, whether it's capital gains, whether you're looking at the investment level? Are there any financial things, tax things attached to that? And there are plenty of professional advisors out there that can help you figure out that sort of stuff. But knowing that you need to go to them earlier rather than later will save you a lot of time in the future and potentially a lot of money. And speaking of doing a financial assessment of your investment, your business, your property, like with everything else, define your investment goals. Define the goals that you want to get financially out of this. And I know we defined our goals earlier, but there is a lot of that needs to go on to achieve what you want. You need to basic goals, one step, then go one step deeper, separate it out from just overall goals. I want to make money. To I want to invest in this style of property. That is my goal. Okay, that style of property generally generates this style of income, or this amount of income, this amount of cash flow, this amount of capital appreciation, etc., etc. So now we're defining our investment goals. Once you've defined your investment goals, you can then start looking at what you plan to invest in, what the business you plan to invest in, and how much potential income that's going to generate. And whether that's rental income, whether it's cash flow from a service or anything else, cash flow is king. And knowing, in theory, best case scenario, worst case scenario, it's probably going to be something in the middle, how much cash flow you're going to be getting from doing this business, that investment, or whatever, is critical, absolutely critical. And then with that, take a look at what are the operational expenses, because it's all very good saying that you've got, £10,000 a month cash flow. That's great. It's 120 grand a year. That sounds fantastic. Okay, I've got to pay tax on that. Okay, cool. But yeah, that sounds lovely. But if I've got, £9,995 operational expenses, then that £120,000 for the year very quickly becomes 60. There's a big difference. I don't mind making £120,000 a year if I'm taking home £120,000 a year. I'm not. If I've got operational expenses that I didn't know about or haven't factored in, then I'm not making 120 grand a year. I'm not making 10 grand a month. I'm making £5 a month because my operational expenses are so high. If you've got operational expenses that high, you should probably look at the model that you're using and see where you can shave bits off, because that's a lot of money. But it happens. It happens more than you'd think. Are you factoring in your time, your costs? How much of your time is going to be invested in this? Is it going to be a full-time job for you? If so, how much are you paying yourself? Are you going as a sole trader or a limited company? In whichever business fashion that you're looking at doing this, each has separate implications for how much money you take on, how much money you take home, what other implications there are. If you're in a limited company, are you having staff? Are you going to have somebody do your accounts for you? Are you paying an accountant? Are you going to have somebody working for you, going as a personal assistant, doing your emails and what have you? All of these things add up, and you need to know those costs before you go into it. So this is all part of the due diligence of understanding what it is that you're letting yourself in for. So now you know how much outgoing. Lee Taylor, good evening. How are you, my friend? It's nice to see some people commenting on Facebook. It's absolute. I'm not alone. This makes me very happy, and I appreciate you being here. Going back to the financial assessment, so you know your operating expenses, you know your potential cash flow. Do they correlate? Does it make sense for you to step foot into this business? If it doesn't, stop there. You don't need to do any more. You've done your due diligence and it doesn't make sense. You got as far as it's not going to make enough cash flow for me to justify my expenses and costs. Okay, cool. Let's check out the next one. If it does make sense, then keep going. Once you've got all of those costs, what other costs are involved that you can think of that you're going to intrinsically, from a basic overview, ignore? And I say ignore because a lot of people do that. They just calculate the cash flow in. If they do calculate their expenses, it's a very generic, well, I've got to pay this. It's going to cost me this. Rough number. And this is where I'm going to tell you that rough numbers are good as a guideline, but you need to know all the other bits and pieces that go into it. Is there going to be a potential appreciation in the cost of the business, the value of the business? Are you purchasing or investing in an appreciating asset? Now, that's not cash flow. That's money stock that just sits there and grows until you sell the asset. You can calculate that, but it doesn't make a difference right now, and it won't make a difference to your operational costs, your outgoing costs, your tax implications, your legal fees, your staffing fees, all the rest of it. Then you need to evaluate your own risk tolerance. How comfortable are you taking risks? Is this a risk? Is this as safe as houses? Is it a little more outside of your comfort zone? Are you understanding what risks are involved with this? Have you set up a separate company for this, or are you incorporating it into your current company? Are you starting from scratch? Are you ring fencing the risk? Are you just opening all of your investments to this risk? All of these things are things that you should think about that are part of your due diligence. If you're looking at investing in stocks and shares, for example, I don't personally do much of it, so I can't tell you much about any of it. But from my understanding, there are some investment stocks that are high risk and some that are low risk. High risk, high reward. Low risk, low reward. That's a decision you've got to make. And again, at this stage, consult with professionals, consult with the people that know what they're talking about. And it might seem like a unnecessary cost, but an unnecessary cost to speak with someone who knows what they're talking about suddenly becomes a very necessary cost when you realize you were about to make a huge mistake that could have cost you way more than they have ever costed. So that's something to bear in mind. Continuing the financial analysis, update it, keep it updated, regularly update it. Make sure that you are keeping yourself informed of changing market trends, how you're going to adapt your strategy if the market shifts or if the business model doesn't work the way you intended. Have contingencies in place. This is all part of the due diligence. Then now we're on to ideal customer. And I touched on this a bit briefly earlier. And understanding your ideal customer allows you to model your business, model your sales, model your customer service towards that customer so you get more of them. Are you in an industry where you have tenants? The tenants are your customers. Are you doing credit checks on them? Is there verification? Is there a rental history? Are you selling a service to specific individuals that might need your service, like accountancy, law services, tech services, networking support, things like that? So, and are you looking at selling to other businesses, or are you looking at selling to individuals? What is your niche? What is it that you're looking at pushing towards to get your perfect client? Is your perfect client someone who can give you good word of mouth, or is it business? So on and so. All of that perfect client things, whether you are required to do tenant checks, whether you're taking deposits, whether you're investing in your client avatar, as it were, to understand what it is that they want, what looks good to them, what will encourage them to communicate with you and allow you to find all that information out. Have an idea of who your perfect client is to begin with. And in the realms of property, have they filled in a rental application form as a tenant? Have you done a credit check? Have you verified that they can afford it? Do they have a rental history? Are you doing an interview with them? Do they have references? Do you have specific clauses and rental agreements and lease agreements in place, is the property or the rental that you are offering, the investment that you're offering out to them, is that fit for purpose? Is it something that will work for them? And possibly right at the top of this list, what are their rights and responsibilities? What is your customer's right and responsibilities? Because customers have responsibilities too. Everyone talks about customer rights, but very few people think about the responsibility of the customer. When I walk into a shop, I have a responsibility not to break things, for example. I know it sounds really basic, but it's something to bear in mind. It's something to think about before going headlong into doing whatever it is that you want to do, whether you're investing in property, whether you're investing in stocks and shares, whether you're investing in businesses, whether you're starting your own business, whether you're all of these things. Understand your customers' rights, understand their responsibilities. And we're going to have more after this short break.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Craving authentic Desi flavors? Look no further than Desi Restaurant. From midday until 1 in the morning, enjoy our homemade specialties that will transport your taste buds. Indulge in tantalizing papri chaat and savor the rich Chersi Kadahi. Treat your friends to our fresh 1 kilogram Chersi lamb handi. Plus, get 2 12-inch pizzas for $11.95. Located at 298 Lincoln Road, we deliver from lunchtime until 1 a.m. Call 01733 555 795 now to order and experience Desi Restaurant's flavors.
Worried your tenants could stop paying their rent during this cost of living crisis? Next Move Estate and Letting Agents are offering landlords 12 months rent in advance. You'll get your rent paid for the whole year in advance. No strings attached. Too good to be true? It really is that simple. So get in touch with us today for this extremely limited offer. Call Next Move now on 01733 641 642 to find out how we can help.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
Peterborough. Who said good quality fried and grilled chicken has to be expensive? At Sam's, we take pride in every piece of chicken that leaves our kitchen. Just one bite of our chicken or burgers is all it takes to realise we are the best. Visit us at our brand new place at 333 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PF. Or order a delivery through Just Eat, Uber or Deliveroo. Sam's, the home of great tasting chicken for over 30 years.
Are you a savvy shopper searching for the best food deals? Look no further. Adams Cash and Carry can help you save big. We're not just a food wholesaler for takeaways and restaurants. We also welcome household customers at our warehouse in Westwood, Peterborough. Visit our website and enjoy wholesale prices on everything from drinks to flour, rice to burgers, and much more. To shop, go online and collect in store. Visit adamscashandcarry.co.uk today to start your savings spree.
It's time to protect yourself against COVID-19 and flu. If you or a family member are eligible for a vaccine this winter, then you can book an appointment or find a walk-in clinic online. Just search for COVID and flu vaccines Peterborough. Even if you've had a COVID-19 or flu vaccine previously, whether it was just once or more often, it's still important to get and remain protected. So to find out more, simply search online for COVID and flu vaccines Peterborough.
Salam Radio.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and welcome back to Wealth Made Simple. I'm your host, Kieron Bateman. Normally I would have my friend and mentor, Mr. Shaz Nawaz, with us, but he's a little under the weather today, so he won't be joining us, so you're stuck with me. If you don't like that plan, you can always get in touch with the studio. You can call us on 01733 602 133. You can text us on 07411 191 062, or you can comment on any of the live streams on Facebook, YouTube, X, or Twitch. And I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your thoughts on this week's subject as well. This week on Wealth Made Simple, we are talking about due diligence and how to do it, what I think you should do. This is just, my own thoughts, my own brain. It's an idea of, from what I have established over, a few years doing these sorts of things, and what I do to research companies, to research investments, to research what I'm doing as my due diligence, who I speak to, how I speak to them, what I say, because it's really important, and we do cover a lot of the time. Make sure you do your due diligence, do your research. But very rarely have we actually gone through and said, what do we do as our due diligence? Speak to the professionals. We go out and, make a full business plan. Things like that. So earlier on, I was talking about, quick cover, understanding as part of your due diligence, your market analysis, defining your objectives, identifying your target market, doing an analysis on your competitors, asking very similar questions, going out and speaking to them, seeing what they're doing, looking at industry trends, doing a SWOT and PESTEL analysis, understanding what condition the investment or business that you're looking at investing in is in, whether it's, for example, for a property, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it's got a sitting tenant, whether you need to go and find tenants, what your ideal customer is, what the legal considerations, contractual agreements, finances, tax obligations, things like that. And then understanding your financial goals with this investment, whether it's just sit and hold and hope it appreciates, or whether you're going to get active cash flow out of this investment, understanding what the cash flow is for that investment, what the costs, the operating costs are for that investment. How many professionals have you spoken to about that? Do they understand what it is you're asking? And then finally, doing your analysis on your potential customers, on, what is it you ask of your customers? What are they in terms of tenants? Are they doing a rental application, background checks, etc., things like that? And then understanding their rights and their responsibilities. So all of that is what we've covered up until now. And moving on from that, I'm going to look at a few things that you should potentially avoid doing at the stage of due diligence. And some of this will be a reminder, don't forget that there are things out there that you don't know exist, you're not aware of. So you need to avoid from getting caught in the trap of, just because you don't know. Ignorance is not an excuse, especially when it comes to something that costs you money or something that is going to make you money. Ignorance is not an excuse. You can't say, oh, that didn't work because I didn't know. Well, I'm here to tell you that even when you're armed with all the answers, it can still go horribly, horribly wrong. And there'll be stuff that you've missed. And there will always be stuff that you miss. So don't beat yourself up for that, but understand that when you do miss it, the reason things go wrong are because generally people miss things. Things like hidden costs. And I use the word hidden costs in context of things that you just assume and never take into account. When it comes to property, for example, very rarely when people are calculating property, do they calculate the stamp duty land tax on it. They go, good evening, Faisal. How are you doing? when people are talking about property, they're talking about selling their properties. You know, oh, my property's worth 150,000, 200,000, 300,000, whatever. Okay, so I've got potentially a mortgage of 150,000. My property's now worth 300,000. Great, I've got 150,000 to put on a new property. Well, do you? Because the answer is you don't. You know, what about the stamp duty costs on that? What about the finance costs, the legal fees, the surveyor fees, the maintenance and repairs, the insurances? The list goes on, and that is a big list of things that you gloss over and you just kind of don't think about. And then suddenly, you know, for a property that's, say, £200,000, you're a good few grand down from where you thought you were. And that can make a huge difference. So, you know, be aware of things that you might overlook. And again, you'll find all this stuff out by speaking to professionals or by having gone through it trial by fire. I vote trial by somebody else's fire and learn from mentors and networkies and people that have been there and done that before you, because they'll point out things that you've missed, and you'll be able to point out things that they've missed. Work together, talk to people. People are generally good, decent, and they'll be able to help you out. But what else should you avoid aside from the hidden costs? Costs of voids. And that's true for property, but it's also true for other businesses. So if you have a working business, doesn't matter whether it's property or, you know, a service or something, if you have nobody in that property, how long can you maintain that property before the business breaks? If you are selling a service, how long can you not sell your services for before your company breaks? Know that before you get involved. Because if you don't account for a month, 2 months where you've got no tenant or you've got no servicees, then, or no new servicees, should I say, no new tenants, no new servicees, or that particular property goes vacant, how long can you survive? How long can your lifestyle survive? How long can your business survive? How long can you do that for? Is there a breaking point? If you've got, do you need one customer to break even? Do you need 2 customers to break even? Do you need 5 customers to make sure that everything is covered, including if everything else is void? Okay, cool. So if I've got 20 flats, for example, and I've never seen this personally, but I'm just using it as an example, and only 5 of those flats are tenanted, I've got 15 empty flats out of the 20. Do those 5 people cover the costs of the other flats? The answer is probably no. In fact, almost definitely no in that case. But if they did, then I know that my minimum working involvement is 5 tenants. Anything above that is profit. That's great, but doesn't always work that way. So need to understand the minimums. Are there any additional fees that you need to pay, like licensing fees, fees to local authorities, small business fees? In the case of taking out loans or having loans to different parties, if it's within your realm, are you paying interest? Are you not paying interest? Are you owning something outright? All of these factors that people don't take into account. Are you, now moving on from that side of things, are you up to date on all the changes? Because we are in a fast-paced world, and regulations change regularly. That doesn't sound right in my brain, but it's true. Regulations change regularly. Doesn't matter whether you're in property or whether you're in business. Keep up to date on what the government are doing and what changes are coming, what changes are going to affect you. When Section 24 came in for property, it changed the entire industry virtually overnight. But we knew it was coming. People people could account for it. People who didn't know it was coming, it affected them massively. And why didn't they know it was coming? They weren't keeping up to date on potential changes, what's happening out in the world, what's going on. And moving on from there, one of the things to avoid doing is people have been there, people have done that, people have seen it before. I promise you that what we do now as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as investors, nothing we're doing is new. There is no new wheel to invent. There is no additional thing that you can do. And if you have invented something brand new, then I want in, and we need to talk. But in general, what you're doing, what we're doing, what I do, what business owners do, what entrepreneurs do, is nothing new. As we've said many times before, success leaves clues. We all do the same sort of things. And part of that is this due diligence. So when you're doing that, and when you understand that, and when you take on that humility that you are not brand new at this, or you might be brand new, but the industries and what people are doing is not brand new, then have that humility to take back and go, what have others done that has been successful? And one of the top ones is not ignoring what others have done before, not thinking you know it all. And this is kind of the point of this entire point, is that I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see into the future. I wish I could. That would make me a very rich man. But I could also help the world in ways that anyway, I'm sidetracking. I'm going down a rabbit hole. Normally I have Shaz to pull me out of these rabbit holes. But if I had a crystal ball, I could see what was coming. I could plan for it. I could balance for it. I could make money off of it. But I can't. I don't. So all I can do is plan for the worst, hope for the best, make sure that I have contingencies in place, make sure that I listen to others, make sure that I can look at what others have done before me and learn from them. If we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That is a phrase that I do truly believe. I do absolutely believe that we need to learn from our history. And I met a few years ago now a futurist. His job is to predict the future, which I think is a fantastic job title, futurist. And he's one of the most understood historians I've ever met. And what he does is, and he does it very, very well, he looks at history, he looks at the trends of history, what people have done, what's happened, so on and so forth. And then he makes educated predictions of what's going to happen next. And they're pretty good. Got to be honest. The man knows what he's talking about. But that all comes from not ignoring what's gone before and not passing it off and thinking that we know better. Some things we do know better now than we did before. But we only know better because of what's happened before. So don't ignore it. Learn from it. Other hidden costs that suddenly might come out of nowhere that you need to have understood in your due diligence is if you've got a business and you need to do maintenance on the computer infrastructure, how much is that going to cost? How many months do you need to be operating, or how many years do you need to be operating to make that cost viable? Is it does that sort of cost negate all of your cash flow for that month, or does it spread out? Can you spread that cost out in terms of property, new boiler, new kitchen, etc., things like that? Can you afford to put them in if they're needed? Can you afford not to put them in if they're Do you have a contingency for that? Have you factored that cost in to your business plan? and when you're doing your due diligence. Have you finished your business plan? That's moving on to the next point, is as part of your due diligence, what is your business plan? Vivek Thakar, I hope I pronounced that right. I'm so sorry if I didn't. No, I'm not a motivational speaker, and I do not know if that player will play in the World Cup 26. As I said earlier, I sadly do not have a crystal ball, but there we go. Happy that you're listening though, and I hope this is good content for you. Going back though to our business plan. Have you done your business plan? Have you got all of your projections, your facts, your figures, in the first month, the first 3 months, the first 6 months? Have you installed your processes or your plans? Are you going to utilize process over people? And I advise that you do, because as we've said many times before, success leaves clues. Have a process-driven business and you'll have a business that can be sold. Have a people-driven business that's reliant on the people. As good and as happy as you might be with those people, if those people leave, they take what's valuable in your business with them, because it's them. If you've got process-driven, you can teach other people the processes, and you've got the documentation, you've got the backup. It makes everything flow so much easier. And when it flows easily, you can improve it. You've got more time to overview and look at your businesses and do your business SWOT analysis, as we discussed earlier, and look at where your weaknesses are and your strengths, and capitalize on your strengths and refine what you're doing and change what you're doing maybe to work out your weaknesses. So you've got less and less of them. And that sort of thing will allow you to look at your business plan. Your business plan is included in your due diligence. Your due diligence then, fulfills its purpose. And then once you've done all of that due diligence and you're looking at it, how are you now going to market your service, market your property, and this is included partly in your business plan as well, but understand the marketing side of it. All of this for me is part of due diligence. When you're marketing, are you marketing through social networks? Are you going to market through individuals? Are you paid marketing? Are you going on billboards? Do you have your own website? Are you reaching out to your website? Do you have an email list? Are you cultivating an email list? Are you going direct to vendor? Are you sending out flyers? All of these things all come from one source, which is your marketing. So that now falls into this section of due diligence and how you do that. So now before you've even started to look at, you've looked at one, business, investment, property, whatever, and you've taken that and you've gone, okay, that's worth this amount now. It's going to cash flow this. It's going to be marketed to this sort of customer. This is how I'm going to market it. And this is the ongoing costs of it. This is the potential pitfall costs of it if something goes wrong. All of a sudden, that due diligence has allowed you to then go, okay, well, overall, in the next month, that's not going to make me any money. But in the next 5 years, that's going to make me $6,000 a month, $5,000 a month, £100 a month, whatever it is. Is that worthwhile based on what my outgoings are, based on all of this? And you can calculate it, create a spreadsheet for it. Shaz loves a good spreadsheet. And that will give you more clarity, more understanding. And the more you do it, the better you'll become at it, the more people you'll speak to get there. And finally on my list of due diligence is network. Understanding your network. Not just the people in your immediate network or the people in your power team, but other people who have done what you want to do before. these people are invaluable to you. If I go to, take Shaz, for example, I can ask Shaz a question, and 99% of the time, he will give me a very in-depth, detailed answer. The 1% that is when he says, that's a good question, I don't know, let's look into it. Because he's done what I want to do before I've done it. So it makes sense to learn from him. I know that there are other people out there who have done everything I want to do. Whether it's, creating a business from scratch, whether it's investing in property, doesn't matter. There are people out there who have done it. And whilst you may not get to first terms or get to message, the great and the immense at these sorts of things, if I wanted to learn about investing in stocks and shares, for example, ideally, I'd want to talk to someone like Warren Buffett. He's done it very, very well. And I think history has proven that. And his current investment portfolio proves that. I'm probably not going to get to speak to him, though. Let's be realistic. But there are others out there who do what he does. And the more successful people are, in my experience, I have found, the more likely they are to talk to you about things that interest you. Not just that interest you, that they are doing to help you. Because there is an abundance of everything out there. And that's part of the due diligence, is knowing that you can go to these people, and very rarely will you get a door slammed in your face of, I'm not sharing my secrets with you. These are mine. This is what I've learned. You don't get to share this. Very few people I have found to be like that. The more people I speak to, the more people want to help others. And that's part of what we're doing here. This is, here I am talking about my experiences, hoping that it will help people out there. Mr. Sparta, I am from Peterborough, where we are broadcasting from. So that's where I'm from. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm loving all the interaction that we've had on the live streams today. It's been really nice to know that people are listening. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. But yeah, the idea that the grumpy old rich person that never wants to talk to anyone and never wants to share anything, that is just this old miser, I'm sure they exist. Don't get me wrong. I've met people, and I see people, and I'm sure they exist. But in general, I have found that people will help. You reach out to someone and say, hey, I noticed that you've done this. Sorry to reach out to you like this on social network or something like that, but I noticed on your profile that you've done X, Y, and Z. I'm really looking to get into this space and do this. Have you got any tips? You'd be surprised at the number of people that go, yeah, let's book in a call. Let's sort this out. Or, in some instances, depending on what sort of service you're getting into or what sort of industry you're getting into, that might be, they might go, yeah, I can absolutely help you out. Here are some hints and tips now. If you want more, you're going to have to book a strategy call, or, that's a paid for service because X, Y, and Z. And that's absolutely fine too. I've got no problem paying for information if it's good information. And if I've got to pay for it, chances are it is good information. But that's something dependent on the industry. If I message, for example, an accountant on Facebook and say, looking at starting a business, have you got any tips as an accountant? Chances are I'm going to get told that it's a paid for service. I need to pay for that information, which is fair enough because that's a regulated industry. If I reach out to someone about investing in property and say, hey, I'm looking at investing in property too. I'm just getting my head around this whole due diligence thing. What do you advise? That's much more specific and much more localized. And chances are they're going to go, oh yeah, when I do my due diligence, what I do is I ask this question, I look at this, I look at this. And it gives you all the information. It gives you a lot more information than you had before. And it will give you, or they'll introduce you to groups, other people, open doors and say, oh, okay, I'm going to connect you with this person because this person actually is better to talk to you about this. So as part of your due diligence, you're also expanding your network, which I personally find makes a huge difference. And the more people around you that are doing and talking about the same things, a rising tide, as Shaz has said to many times, raises all ships. You don't grow in isolation. You grow as part of a community, as part of a group. And that's really, really satisfying. And that's about all I have on due diligence for this week. Shaz will be back with us next week, I do hope. But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit us up. We always, try to answer questions as much as we can. But until next week, stay safe, and I will see you in 1 week's time, same place. Alaikum salam.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
At Master's Pharmacy, we